Welcome to DJ Speech Class. This lecture is going to cover the topic of communication apprehension. The definition of communication apprehension is the fear or anxiety associated with real or anticipated communication interactions. So for instance, stage fright is an example of communication apprehension. Now, when someone is experiencing anxiety about public speaking, this anxiety might come before the speech, way before. And that's when the person is anticipating the speech day, for instance. The anxiety can also happen on the speech day, so during the communication event, and or even after the communication event. So communication apprehension is basically the fear or anxiety associated with communication. Now, this might be a one-on-one communication interaction, a small group communication interaction, or even a large group public speaking communication event. Now, there are two different dimensions of communication apprehension. Scholars call communication apprehension CA. First, trait-like CA. This is anxiety in most communication interactions. So, in a one-on-one interaction, small group at a party, or even a public speaking exercise at a work interaction. All of these events cause anxiety for people who experience this trait-like dimension of communication apprehension. It is similar to the characteristic of shyness. Number two, state-like communication apprehension. This is anxiety in very few communication interactions. It's often based on the context of the situation. So perhaps an individual does not have anxiety when talking to others or to small groups at work, but then when it comes time to give a speech, that's when the anxiety kicks in. So it's based on the context. If the context has high stakes, such as asking a boss for a raise or asking an individual out on a date, then the anxiety and nervousness may kick in. Now, anxiety causes many physiological responses. That may include an increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased breathing, and sweating. The sweating can happen at the palms or the head or the armpits. Maybe the physiological response to the event is that of a shaking voice or a shaking hand or even a shaking leg or a kneecap. Now, anxiety can cause things that are minor, such as shaking, but anxiety can also cause things such as wanting to faint. And we are going to learn some strategies to better manage these physiological responses our body has to public speaking. Now, some common approaches to managing the fear of public speaking include that of physical action, becoming an expert on the topic of your speech, and some also internal dialogue. I'm going to be teaching you all 3 different strategies that help with managing communication apprehension, particularly for public speaking. First is that of skills training. Communication apprehension can stem from not knowing how to give a speech. So the strategy is taking a class and to learn the skills for an effective speech. It's important that people will communicate confidence with posture and gestures and eye contact, and even appeal to Aristotle's artistic proofs of ethos, pathos, and logos. All of these things we cover in our class, and we hope that communication apprehension, and the anxiety will decrease over the course of the semester by acquiring all of these skills. Next, systematic desensitization. Communication apprehension can also come from a lack of experience and these uncontrolled physiological responses, such as the fast breathing, the sweating, the shaking. So the strategy is practicing relaxation techniques, for one, and this might include taking a deep breath for 5 seconds, holding it for 5 seconds, and then releasing the breath for 5 seconds. When an individual controls their breath, it then helps them to control the other things, such as increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, maybe the feeling of wanting to faint, an upset stomach. So the relaxation technique is simply just controlling your breathing. Other relaxation techniques may include that of shaking off the nervousness, or maybe listening to some positive music before the event. Another strategy is visualizing a positive outcome. And others include that of aromatherapy nowadays. Now, it's important that you choose relaxation techniques that work for you. Maybe what might work for you is simply taking a walk before the speech so that you can control these physiological responses. Now, the second part of the strategy is getting gradual exposure to public speaking. It's important that we begin with small steps and small amounts of time for the speeches before the larger speeches that are greater amounts of time. So we'll begin with delivery exercises, the introduction speech, and then we will do later this semester the informative speech and the persuasive speech. Another strategy is cognitive restructuring. Communication apprehension can derive from illogical ideas. So the strategy is identifying the reasoning for stage fright, discovering the flaws in logic, and creating ideas that are more rational than before. So for instance, the person has to identify first, why are they scared of public speaking? You may think, well, everyone is going to judge me negatively. So then you have to discover the flaw in logic. Now, the flaw in the logic is that this is just a hasty generalization. Everyone in the class is not a bunch of haters. All these people are actually really friendly. So the last step is creating ideas that are more rational than before and believing that the class is not going to judge you negatively. The class is going to be more supportive than you will ever believe. So there's a few more strategies. Know your subject and care about your subject. And even see your classmates as friends. These are all strategies from iSpeak. Other strategies include, remember that we're all in the same boat. Keep in mind that you don't look as nervous as you feel. And practice. And these are strategies from Public Speaking Choices and Responsibility. So yes, being an expert on your subject is important, and caring about your subject will actually create a contagious effect where your audience will care about your subject as well. And know that everybody has to do the same assignment as you, so they're feeling the same anxiety. Everyone is going to mess up a little bit because that is normal. Everyone is going to sweat a little bit because that is normal. Remember, we are all humans. Also, if you are gesturing, you have straight posture and you're giving excellent eye contact, you look way more confident than you will ever believe, and you don't appear nervous at all. And of course, practice, because practice makes perfect. Now, it's important that you become a master of your fears. Bear Grylls once said that being brave isn't the absence of fear. Being brave is having that fear, but finding a way through it. And that's exactly what we will be doing this semester with public speaking.